Hello, you're listening to E-Bible Fellowship's new open form excerpts, and now we present the following excerpt.
Welcome to our question and answer program. Please go ahead with your call.
Hello. Can you share again? I know you've been saying many times about the hell, Hell. Can you share again? Because I need to understand the hell.
What is the
No.
Bible's teaching on hell? Is that what you're asking?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yeah, hell, when people think of hell, they immediately think of fire and certain verses. Like in Mark 9, if your hand offend you, cut it off. It's better to enter into life with one hand than having two hands to be thrown into hell, into the fire that is never quenched. And particularly that image has just stayed in the minds of men. Hell is a place of fire that never goes out. And yet, when we look at the Bible's teaching on hell, the word hell really isn't used all that many times. In the Old Testament, it's the word Sheol. It's the only one word in the Old Testament is translated as hell. Sheol is the Hebrew word, and it's translated hell about 31 times in the Old Testament, and it's equally translated as grave about 31 times. So that means that the meaning grave and hell are synonymous. It's also translated, I think, about 3 times as pit. The reason why the translators would find the word Sheol and translate it as grave rather than hell often was the context. For instance, if Jacob was buried and went to the grave, Jacob was a child of God. Translators knew that. He didn't go to hell. And so they realized he died and went to the grave. And so that's a big clue. In the New Testament, there's 3 words, Greek words, that are translated as hell. There's Hades, there's Gehenna, and then there's Tartaru. Tartaru is translated as hell, or the word itself is only found once. That's the verse in 2 Peter 2, where Satan and the fallen angels were cast down to hell, to Tartaru. Hades and Gehenna, I think Hades is translated 10 times as hell, about 10 times, and Gehenna maybe 12 times. So total, in the New Testament, you'll find the word hell 23 times. Now, Hades is also translated as grave in 1 Corinthians 15. Let me go to that verse. In 1 Corinthians 15, it says the end of verse 54, death is swallowed up in victory. And then in verse 55, O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? That's the word Hades that is translated as hell every other place. And yet the context has to do with death swallowed up in victory. Then in verse 55, O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? And so it's correctly translated as grave. And then we see, well, that follows pattern of Sheol in the Old Testament. Death or grave and hell. And when we have learned from the Bible that God's plan for the sinner, God's punishment for the sinner is said to be death, right? Romans chapter 6, verse 23, for the wages of sin is death. The wages of sin, what one earns, what one has brought to themselves through their sin, is death. That will be the payment. That will be the wage that the sinner is going to make for his sin It is death. It's death. And death, when you die, you go into the grave. So we put it all together. We see that the Bible basically teaches that the payment for sin is eternal death. And then you get the idea, eternal hell. Eternal hell is saying the same thing as eternal death. In other words, once a sinner has died, he is dead forever. He's dead. He'll be no more. He will no longer or never again have conscious existence because he's dead. It's an eternal death. And then on the very last day, a literal last day of Earth's existence, when God burns up the world and universe, all that have died will experience the second death. It is the destruction of death itself with fire. God just burns up the cursed creation and all sinners out of existence. They are annihilated. That is the ultimate payment for sin, and the Lord receives that payment.
Thanks for watching, and be on the lookout for more new open forum excerpts that will be added periodically.